we do is update it with the ones that say yes or no.
Okay.
But there are also regulars who they don't do. Some people take 6 months. So what our job is so if we build another 6 months, but I have to get where their invoices expire. However, I was talking
Anything ever happen with TELUS security people?
yeah, the last instances.
I kind of lost track of that.
Well, because they told on last Saturday, because the Art Pod had their concert thing there, and so I was at that. When I got home, just shortly after I got home, I got a call first from TELUS security saying the alarm got, and I got a call from the CNP saying they got a notice about the alarm. And I said, well, I think it's just a false alarm because there were people. He said, well, he wasn't very happy. He said, well, I have to check it out anyway. No, so he wasn't happy, and I thought, oh, God, is this ever going to quit? And then
Oh, we're cutting them off.
I don't know, but, and then 2 weeks, I haven't had one for a while, so, but then they said they give us 30 days break.
Good afternoon, everyone.
And
Welcome to the special finance meeting of April 4th, 2024. I acknowledge the Sianwa and South First Nations on whose land we live, work, and play. This acknowledgement is only one small part of supporting Indigenous communities, and we continue each day to listen, learn, and act to support truth and reconciliation. Committee, there's an agenda before you. Are there any additions? The pinks, yes, we've got 2 letters here from residents of the community. We will add that under correspondence, number 4. Thank you.
Move adoption of the agenda as amended.
Moved by Mayor Little, seconded by Councillor Gray. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We have Councillor Shukin online this afternoon. Welcome, Councillor Shukin.
Can you hear us, Jay? Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Thomas and I. Thank you.
Okay, so public participation. Is there anyone from the community that would like to speak this afternoon? If so, please state your name and the street in which you live.
Jim McPherson, Eagle Tree Place. I just wanted to make an observation in light of 2 years, I suppose, of very significant increases in property taxes. Over the course of the last number of years, I have been part of Wild Dark's fundraising program, basically through the handling of coin box programs in Chosen, Langford, and Colwood. And it's been interesting over the last 6 months to basically compare and see how people are adapting to real cost price pressures. 6 months ago, I would have no problems at all through that coin box program of getting something in the order of around $600 a month for donations to Wild Ark. Now, today's returns on it was less than $300. I just draw it for observation in the sense that the choice that people are making in terms of adapting to significant cost pressures throughout the family, and to highlight again the importance of your job in terms of making certain that taxes are as low as you possibly make them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Burgess, 3837 Duke Road. And I'm here, first of all, to say thanks to Councillor Gray for providing information about the Capital Regional District. Pointing, I think all of you got a copy of basically their major budget decisions, and I really appreciate that kind of sharing with the public. Very important information, and I would request that our mayor, who sits on the CRD, perhaps finds a way to report CRD issues when you do reports to council and to the public. I think it's important, particularly because the second thing I wanted to find out was in that article there is the notice of approximately 3%, which goes right on our tax bill from the CRD. And that's the only way we hear in advance what some of these other tax levies that we face when they go on our bill. We've got school district, we've got CRD, we've got Parks and Rec, Montefeuca. So it's really important, I think, in helping the community understand that also their tax bill is not just what you are struggling with, but what we are essentially, what's imposed on us by these other organizations, which just makes our tax bill that much bigger. So more info is always a very good thing. And the third point I have is that I know that you received 2 considerable grants that I hope are being considered in development maybe over the 5 years. I'm not sure what the timeline is for your 2.6 million community grant that came from the province. I haven't looked at reserves to see if it's going there or exactly what it's going to be allocated to. So that's a very important thing. And I believe there was talk of a public participation piece that may provide some input into how the 2.6 million is going to be spent. The other grant is the 172,000 for housing initiatives, I believe they call it. Certainly a review of some kind by, and that I believe has a deadline of December of this year. I know that a large portion of that may be funneled under the planning budget. How it is spent under the planning budget would also be something very interesting to see. That I think there is possibly the ability for public too to put input into what's considered a housing initiative or a housing review in Metchosin. And that word keeps coming up, although I know it's not a favorite word in Metchosin because we have to consider what it really means. I just ask that council consider that the word housing has a huge scope, and that there may be opportunities in Metchosin, certainly not the high-rise, whatever opportunities that had been under discussion previously. So those are my points today. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Avril Coon Fall Road. Maybe you'll be covering this in the budget, but I haven't seen anything that describes the full-time employee for the fire department, and I wonder if that will be addressed. Whether it's involved with the fire department or it's items outside of the fire department that is causing the problems with the fire chief having time. Is it fire department or is it the items outside of the fire department? Maybe that'll be addressed, a job description for that full-time employee. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Nicole
Michigan, the Bond Road resident. And I just want to start by thanking Councillor Donaldson for chairing so many special finance committee meetings. I think this is the 10th. And I have to say, like, in the history of my time in Metchosin, I don't think I've ever seen so many public workshops that enable the public to give input into the budget. So the time and space that's been given to residents to comment has been really remarkable and significant. And I want to thank all the council as well for the amount of time and scrutiny you've put into the budget, and also our CEO Bob Payette. Just in comparison to like other surrounding municipalities, I mean, Langford has a 15+ tax increase. I think Souk is looking at close to an 11% increase. And what you have all managed to pack into a 7% tax increase is, to my mind, like so remarkable. I see all the essential services being protected and delivered. I also see some amazing new investments, progressive investments in the community. So thank you all for that.
Thank you. Okay, seeing that there's no one else to comment, we'll move on. So number 3 on the agenda is reports, page 3, staff report. If I can ask our CAO to address the report we have today, please.
Okay, thank you through the chair. Similar to our previous committee meeting, I can summarize the report by reiterating that we are moving nicely towards the final approval process as legislated for the financial plan and the tax rate bylaw. And that date is fast approaching for May 15th. In the discussion, we have the operating budget and summary, the 5-year capital plan, and with the one-times, we have the consolidated list, which I think is useful for everybody to keep track of. Hold me to the fire to get everything done, but it's also embedded into the budget as well as one-timers, so that so that our finance team can keep track of the expenses in a logical way. So that's all provided for you in a consolidated approach. And then the dates, so we've made it to the final committee meeting, and then as listed in the report, we're ready for council approval for second and third on April 22nd, and then final approval in May. So that is outstanding. And a couple of quick cleanup items that were directed last committee meeting from the committee. I'll just quickly go through them, and they've all been satisfied in the budget documentation. But very quickly here, the allocation for invasive species is in the operating budget. The funding for the community house is in the operating budget. Confirmed. And the housing legislation, we've had quite a bit of discussion about that, and that is included in the budget, and well reviewed and accurate. The municipal bylaw review amount is annotated as well as requested, so that's confirmed. The rear beach stairs had a meeting actually on site yesterday morning with residents and staff and their contractor. That's well underway and budgeted for properly. Youth Parliament is understood and in the operating budget. The shoreline protection plan, we have some work to do there, so that will be coming back to council this year in one form or another as a report. The sports courts court discussion will take place as well this year through a council report. And then, of course, I've had some discussions already on that, so there's lots of interest in the way ahead there. And the environmental review reserve for the contract management of the buffer lands has been done, and it's been cleared up in the documentation, and it's on our list of things to do. And doing the there's a plan, like doing a plan with the rabbit control. I have talked a little bit to the contractor, and we did do a quick request to legal about if we should be spending public money on private land. And of course, as everyone knows, rabbits, they don't, they don't read, so they can cross borders and everything, so obviously we can't control that. So there is some latitude to utilize public funding in that regard, but the warning is that we treat all of our residents equally. So if one resident gets special service, any resident will get the same service, so I need to be careful in that regard. But in our plan with the consultant, we'll be careful to address that issue. But I believe if there's a way of controlling rabbits and we can take care of some of the problems on private land concurrently, I think that's the way to go. I will manage that appropriately. So other than that, that's the report for tonight. I believe that we can move ahead with a recommendation to approve the budget.
Okay. The committee, do you have any comments? Councillor Shukin.
Thank you very much. Just one minor item, but it was a great cleanup on Mr. Payette's part, and that's on page 22, electronic signs. I think at one point we had something like 300,000 budgeted in 2028, so that's now gone and made much more reasonable. So again, another good catch. And thanks, Mr. Payette. So I'm quite satisfied with the budget, and I'm prepared to support moving ahead to the next steps.
Anybody else have any comments?
Just I appreciate all the work that Mr. Payette's put into getting this all sorted out without much opportunity to catch up on municipal business before being hit with it. So I think it's I would definitely support it as well.
Okay, Councillor.
Yeah, just a point of clarification for folks. We've been saying 7.1% increase, but the budget actually includes the police costs, which would be, if one was to compare to Langford or Sioux, if you want to do that. So the total tax increase for residential and the police will be 9.8% tax increase. That's pretty dandy considering where we started. So well done. Important to know about that is the significant amount of the tax decreases because of our estimates of revenue earnings on our investments. So we've really been fortunate in the sense of I guess it's interest rates and other things mean that we'll pick up, or we're expecting to pick about $130,000 in 2023, more than our budget in 2023, just from earnings investments, and that's allowed us to keep the taxes down, which is great news. I wonder, just for a point of clarification, and Mr. Pat, I apologize, I didn't ask before, but through the chair, when we approve the budget, are we approving, or would we do that separately, the pay rates of the fire department? So we have the three things. One is the wage for an individual at $65,000, and the other, the two, I gather, new rates or changing rates for honorariums and the allowance. Do you think our budget approval is approving the rates as well in the situation, or do we do that separately?
Yeah, through the chair. So the unionized employees' pay rates are a separate process, and the honorariums are in the operating budget.
Okay, so we'll approve those when we do the whole, as we do the whole thing. Great. And then the other thing was, I mean, there's more to comment about in terms of the different issues here, and thank you for you've clarified a few of them. I think we've got a couple of budget items. The invasive species would be one. The parks and trails and money, both in the operating budget, but also in the one-times. We're still looking for plans for those before we actually approve the spending of those dollars, but they're certainly there. And the multi-sport we'll deal with in the future?
Yeah.
Great. The other question I would have might be, I've asked before about the capital expenditures on, particularly with regards to public works and the roads. And there was mention of a plan that exists, and I wonder if we might circulate that plan to council, the old plan, just so we get a sense of where that is. Thank you, that would be appreciated. And that would help answer, I think, the question that we received from Mr. Mitchell and the Pinks, saying, well, what's happening in future years? I think the answer to that question, he asks, the forecasts do not include significant capital expenditures on roads in 27, 28, and he's sort of a little bit concerned about that. But I think the answer to that question is we have a plan already, which we'll stick to unless or as it gets revised by the investment that we're putting something like $50,000 into our roads and culvert management plan or asset management plan. So I think we can reassure our residents that those numbers will fill in. They're not there today, but as the year goes by, those will get picked up. But I, for one, would appreciate seeing the old plan just so we know where we started. The other thing I wasn't sure about, the Trails Master Plan kind of disappeared, but I think it's included in the active transportation plan now. Is that where it sits?
I can speak to that.
Yes.
So, hello? Yeah, I can speak to that. So the active transport plan we've launched now. And so that'll take place concurrent to the Trails Master Plan review, which I believe the committee is looking at, the Parks and Trails Committee. And as they do the deliberations and prioritize and update their portion of that Trails and Parks Master Plan, concurrent to the Active Transportation Master Plan, in the grant, the criteria of the grant allows us to merge those two and do a final product and public open house and discussion through the grant process, so that it's funded in the grant.
Thanks, that's helpful. I didn't think it had disappeared. There it is. And then the other point I just wanted to ask about was the on the page 31 of the last page is the one-time cost. And we've allocated $150,000 for it, but the total is $166,403. So am I right to say that we're approving $150,000, and then just as Mr. Pratt's able to manage during the year, we'll sort out which ones we're able to pay for and which not, but we'll stick to the budget of $150?
That's right.
Thank you. And then I think part of that was we talked at the last meeting about the gas tax, and we figure out we haven't overspent the gas, or just get a look at which ones are possible. And that makes sense to me if we review that at a future date. Then I had one other question. It came up actually subsequent to a meeting that we had. It was a finance meeting, and we reached a decision it was about the period promise. And I didn't think of this at the time, but I'm sure the committee will remember that we approved the third option, which was to have a commercial dispenser in a designated central location near a washroom in each building. And I'm just wondering if that's the best thing to do, particularly thinking of young women and the circumstances they may find themselves in. And it might be preferable for privacy and other reasons to have these dispensers available, not necessarily the commercial dispenser in every washroom, but a mix of the commercial and the mini dispensers, and of course whatever staff might decide is appropriate. That's a little bit more costly probably than what we voted that night. I don't know how to deal with that best, but it's come up as a thing, so if we could be sensitive about that.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of money. The commercial dispensers are $7,000 in total, but if we could just give direction to deal with that in the best way possible. Others may have a different point of view, but it seems to me there's an issue of having those available wherever.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have a committee discussion.
Thank you. I guess my final question is in relation to the open house issue. And I guess you told us we're not going to have an open house this year, but I do see that as a useful venue for us. For people who have had questions, it has been, as Nicole Shukins pointed out, from the public perspective, there's been a lot of meetings, so I can attest to that. And thanks for all the chair work that you've done, Councillor Donaldson. But without an open house, we don't have that chance to actually have the dialogue as much as we might otherwise have. But I do see there's a mayor's tea on this coming Tuesday, so that's an opportunity for people possibly to bring some questions if they still have them on the budgets. But any other interest in having a particular meeting for the public?
No. We have had sufficient engagement through this process, and as the resident said, there's upwards of 10 meetings. We've had lots of letters sent into us, so there's been lots of engagement in that regard for people who haven't been able to attend. And as well as we've had the mayor's teas and other ways of getting hold of us, each individually or collectively, as it were, email. So I think that we've done our process. This has been a lengthy year for a number of different reasons. Change in staff. I've got actually a summary of how this process has gone when I'm finished here, so I will address that a little bit. So the answer that I gave the last meeting is no, we will not. We've done our due process, and it's time to close the books on this when we're ready and move on to the next steps.
Thanks for that response, Councillor. I guess what I hope is that maybe what we can try next year is kind of get those questions and answer them as we go along, and that might help a little bit just to deal with any unanswered issues, but I appreciate your response.
Yeah, so with regard to that, I believe we've done our best to answer those questions, and I'll answer a little bit of what I see on the paints today as well, because there's comment about how some are repeated questions without getting answers, and there's some reasons for some of that. As I said at each meeting, and acknowledging the public for what they have said, and that we will do our best throughout the meeting to answer the questions to the best of our ability at that time or following up. And I think we have done our best. I mean, we haven't answered all of the questions. Yes.
Yeah, the one I appreciate that we've been doing our best to do that, but it's that idea of cataloging a little bit. Well, just to answer maybe Jennifer Burgess' question today, the 2.6 Growing Communities Fund, we will have more discussion about that. We have not made any decisions in this process. 2.4. Or, sorry, 2.4 is it? And then on the housing initiative, what's going on there, just to be clear and clarify perhaps through you to Mr. Payette, we've put the money in the budget. It's available for the planning department to spend the money, and that money would be spent on wages, both for payment for the services of our planner, but also for the legal advice that we might receive, and that the money will be there. And what's not spent this year, the housing money is given to us for this planning purpose specific to do with the housing initiative and the bills that the provincial government put through. So we're not able to spend it in other ways. It's for that purpose. And then whatever is left over this year will be used next year, next budget, for the same purpose. So we'll finish off that work the province has given us. I think that's
That's correct. Yeah, so at some point in time, the two grants will come before us again, and staff will guide us through that process as well. So to answer the question on where's the money in that, we were going to be starting that, but given that we had the budget process to go through, that's what we've done. So we have deadlines for those, and again, staff will guide us in that direction. Just regarding a couple comments through public participation, Ms. McPherson had shared an observation that actually I share as well, and that is that the fundraising dollars aren't quite the same as they used to be. I found that with Coldest Night Ever was significantly lower than previously. Nevertheless, we get out there, we do our best, and be part of a community. Everybody's feeling the same way, and I think this committee has done their best to, I feel like I'm repeating that word, best, have done their due diligence in keeping the costs low. We could sit here till the cows come home and go through every single line and still not be happy with things, but we will certainly approach this, I think, differently next time around, modernize our spreadsheets, which would make it a lot more streamlined. In regards to Ms. Yoakum's comment about the new position at the fire department, there are a number of reasons for this position, as has been explained, and I've done a lot of behind the scenes research myself and trying to understand the purpose of this and deciphering the memos that have come through the chief, where we started in November, where we went to in February, and so on and so forth. Some of these things are what did not help our process in getting all the information right away at the beginning, but clearly we'll do that next time. There were a lot of asks that came in after November for things, which is why we saw things go up, our prices go up, or prices, our percentage go up past 15%. So that's not really how I think this committee wants to operate. But nevertheless, getting back to the position, what did change was we no longer have the model that we had previously with the Public Works being able to attend calls by day. We only have one of the three individuals that can do that, so that does leave us a little bit short when people in this community leave for jobs elsewhere. We only have our fire chief, our day person, and so this will be a third person and then the one Public Works person. So that gives us a complement of 4 people. I don't have a job description for this individual position, as I don't for any of the positions of staff. That's not the role of a councillor. So I have to, as one person at this table, go with what's reported to me as being justified. The other thing that came out of the memo of February 8th was we will have coverage in the evenings with a complement of people so that there's somebody at the hall reducing our response time, which was, as we know, very important when we were trying to get our callbacks. We did get those back after a couple of years, and a lot of our calls, majority of our calls are medical, so reducing response time is critical when there's an emergency situation. This is why the chief had asked for more money to be in the firefighter allowance. That also got reduced. I'm hoping that we have sufficient funds to cover that and the call-out pay. So all of these are working pieces to a bigger plan. In the last 2 years, we did get a request from fire chief for somebody to do administrative work at a casual rate of $8,000. So yes, it was a surprise to see a $65,000 full-time pensions benefit position. This is a starting rate. This, and as the chief has explained, there are new regulations and there are different things that are required. The one thing I'm hoping that we will see with having an extra person is that we update our fire prevention bylaw, which is dated at 2018. So clearly those new regulations are probably more current than that. So making that more of a thorough, fulsome document that would include mutual aid arrangements as well as deployment and all of that as one big public safety document. So this is where this person would probably help with some of that as well when we're talking about the new regulations. There's more to learn about that. This is not my area of expertise. I understand quite a bit of it just from research and people I know in the field, but these are the ways of us helping to make some decisions by reaching out to the chief, the staff, and in my own connections of a bigger field of people, I've been able to do that as well. So including what other municipalities are dealing with and, you know, their staffing situations, which are always going to be different than ours, the same as their tax rates are always going to be different than ours because the services are. So that's all I have to add to that. Yeah, so we just had those comments. Anything else, Mayor Lilly?
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for the chair for guiding us through these 10 meetings. I do want to say thanks to our CAO Payette for over the last, you inherited this, and you've done a remarkable job in January, the January 25th meeting. The tax increase was 15.8%. We've managed to get it down to 7.1, 7.2, which I think is remarkable. What that will also mean is next year there probably won't be a lot of surpluses for us to be doing one times, I anticipate. But I just wanted to make special thanks to the CAO for meeting with all the departments and cutting, and also to all the departments for cutting where they didn't think that they needed. So thank you very much.
Okay, so seeing if there's no other comments, I just want to close by saying, in regards to the staff report, we've already acknowledged that the committee has undergone an extensive review of the financial plan, and the public have had lots of opportunity to provide input on the plan during all of the budget meetings. It is now in order for the committee to finalize the 2024-2028 financial plan. The bylaws will be brought forward for consideration of first, second, and third readings at the April 22nd council meeting, and with adoption of the bylaws May 6, 2024. So in conclusion, I just want to also say thank you to the public for your constructive input. Like most municipalities, desired improvements, needs and wants in the district may outweigh the financial capacity of a small rural community. And thank you to our staff for their diligence and patience in keeping the Finance Committee moving forward. It has been a long haul. And for the committee, I thank you for your commitment to our residents in seeking a balanced budget that represents continued services and desired improvements to support living in rural Metchosin. So I'd like to take a motion that the committee approve the final 2024-2028 5-year financial plan and capital budget as presented today.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Mayor Little. All in favor?
In favor. Thank you.
Carried. Thank you. Okay. So I would like to open up this part of the meeting to the public for input, please. Anybody like to have a comment? You can step up to the mic now. State your name and street in which you live.
Just very quickly, Nicole Sheik, the Bond Road resident. Congratulations, great budget. I'm glad it passed. I just want to say, I'm not sure, Councillor Gray, if Langford's tax increase and Sukes actually include the policing costs or not. So that may be in addition to the 15 plus and almost 11. But it's still comparatively, I think Metchosin is coming out beautifully. I also just wanted to mention a few people have been seeing dump truck activity already on the roads, which is not supposed to be happening. And I recall Ken Farquharson several years ago talking about a time in Metchosin when people with dump truck or soil deposit permits had to pay a small fee towards the roads reserve. And I think that would be an awesome idea to bring back next year. So it's just something to dangle at the end of this process you've taken us through. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer Burgess, 3837 Duke Road. It's kind of a sadness that I stand here and hear that we're not going to get those wonderful posters and have Sam Weller pointing to all the pieces and explaining exactly why you did this and why you did that. So it is with regret that I hear that there is no open house going to take place, because yes, maybe a dozen folks only wandered through, but let's hope they went home and talked to another few dozen folks. And it was kind of a nice open house type thing where you went up to the Capitol lists or the fire hall lists and you sort of went, yeah, I understand it. So there was something in it, at least for me, to visually see all of those lovely posters and talk about them, I guess. And so that's just my public input. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no more comments, we'll move on to correspondence with the Pinks. So a number of times we have had, I think Councillor Gray has actually addressed Mr. Mitchell's letter quite well. I don't have any more comments on this other than to say that just as far as grant and aid, it still is the 5,000. Yes, we will be doing that within the next month. I believe presentations will be in May this year. I don't have any other comments about other stuff that he said there. But I did want to address a couple of comments that the next one, Ms. McPherson has mentioned. So she has mentioned this, I think, in a previous letter, and I thought it had been addressed. However, what I want to say is any inquiries to do with staff wages, arrangements with staff, and in this case, in the Pink, she comments about a former employee and a current employee. These are all confidential documents that we can't speak about. I've had people that have emailed me saying, I want this, or I'll have an FOI. I don't have that information to share, and neither do any of the people sitting at this table. So we are bound by certain rules of the community charter, and when things are spoken about in camera, that's where they stay. That is part of the job that we have, unless there's something that we can rise and report. So those are the confidentiality, nothing that we can release to the public on. In regards to comments about the surpluses that we had this year, we did have a budget last year that quite a few of us had talked about, maybe we could cut here and there, and we were guided by staff that no, we needed a budget to be in place the way it was. So we went with that. We did find that a lot of things were not put to use or invested in. So that has been, as our CAO has explained, has been carried over for this year. So those monies that are now surplus, those are going to be reinvested for the benefit of the residents of this community. You've already been taxed on it. It's not like a big prize or Christmas presents or anything. These are monies that will be put back into the community. And it's pretty clear when we look at the one-time list that those investments will benefit residents across the across Metchosin, not just in the village, not just a special interest group. There's something there for everybody. So I just wanted to be clear that yes, it is extra money, but it is going back to benefit people. So we haven't forgot about, a lot of the asks that we had from last year or this year. Those are things we just keep carrying forward, and we won't probably have that as much as we did in the previous year for next year. In regards to Duke Road Trail, it has been mentioned a number of times that we will be looking into where the pins are. There'll be a survey, so it's an information gathering before we do any other make any other decisions. That was very clear in the recent meetings, both with Parks and Trails and with the Parks Committee meeting. So I believe that has been addressed as well. Key there was one of the big mentions, I think, that we heard from public engagement was that, we don't put a lot of money just in one neighborhood over another neighborhood, that we actually, again, collectively look at the whole of Metchosin. And so out of that came the importance of upgrading the Parks and Trails master plan. So these are things that we have talked about in open meetings. There's no secrets to any of these sorts of things. And we are listening, and we are doing our due diligence to make sure that there is a process of how we go about doing that. I believe that this council has been very open with their communication, at public participation opportunities. We've got emails, we've got phone numbers that people can contact us with. These special finance meetings, you have 2 opportunities to speak here. People definitely reached out. We've had record numbers of people attending meetings, which I believe is a good sign. I think critical input is a value. There's always going to be positive and there's going to be negative, and we have listened. We're always going to be criticized that we have done something that wasn't satisfactory to everybody, or to even a few. Again, we will keep moving forward and we'll keep doing our best, and I myself will always try to do better. And in the last part here, talking about a connector trail from, say, Colwood to Metchosin. This is just, this is what we do with communities. The borders don't stop at Duke Road or Winter Road or Kangaroo and Soup Road. The borders are bigger than that. The West Shore is a bigger community. So we don't have the infrastructure in Metchosin for certain amenities. We go to the other communities, and the communities come here to visit for recreation. Are we going to put in a bike lane from Royal Bay to Metchosin? Probably not. If we look at other rural communities like West Saanich Road, North Saanich area, Prospect Lake, Burnside Road areas, I see cyclists all the time, and they're not bike lanes, but there are ways of traveling, and we can improve some things in Metchosin. So those are things that we will collaborate with our neighbors in urban areas, but we will always maintain to be rural. And so I appreciate what residents are saying, that, you know, please be mindful of these different things. So I can't promise the world to everybody. We're not going to do this and we are going to do that. I'm just saying that we will always try to maintain the wishes of our community. So with that, I'd like to move on to number 5 of the agenda and ask for an adjournment. The next finance meeting will be April 8th, 2024 at 7 p.m. And that is all for the special finance meeting for this afternoon. Councillor Gray.
Just before I move that, I might say that there is some, in terms of Mr. Mitchell's question about the payment in lieu of taxes, I think there is some collection of funds that are going into a payment in lieu of tax reserve, which is helping us bridge forward for the time when the payment in lieu of taxes will be reduced. And as per Ms. McPherson's note, I think some of the information is here. It's just in the documents. It's just a question of knowing which lines they are. And I could certainly help Ms. McPherson on those lines in the budget. The cost of the part-time accountant, for example, the recently hired engineering. We've talked about those, but they're not just as clear here in the notes, but the numbers are available. And I think we answered before in the public meeting that Mr. Payet's moved to cost $7,000. That was the public information. So I think those numbers are all there that people can look at if they want to.
Okay. So do I have a mover to adjourn? Moved by Mayor Little, seconded by Councillor Gray. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Could someone else remind Nicole to feed my goldfish?
Nicole, would you please feed Jay's goldfish?
She says she will.
Okay.
But she kind of winked as she said that.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Probably. Oh, that's what it is.
Councillor Abb, if I have a moment of your time, please.
What? I thought you know.